Thanks for tuning into IB Canada's Business of Digital podcast. We're joined today by Kristie Painting, Country Manager at Pinterest Canada. Welcome, Kristie. Thank you for being with us here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura, for having me.
You know, I don't think that Pinterest nor yourself need an introduction, but your background is very unique to me. Coming from, several years having been on the sell side with Bell Media, a few other kind of publishers previously, as well as being, spending over 3 years as the CEO of Wavemaker, this concept of transition is really coming through for me. I think it's indicative of the industry being at a constant flux of transition, but also kind of you as well. And I'm really curious about what brought you into the platform side of things, let alone your career as well. So tell me a little bit about you.
You are absolutely right. Everything has, over the course of my career, certainly, it feels like there is a transition every few years. Things shift and they change. My philosophy has always been to understand what is emerging, what is about to be particularly exciting for audiences, but also for me. And I've always looked to try to embrace new opportunities with that kind of an overarching philosophy in mind. Prior to Pinterest, I was CEO at Wavemaker Canada, which was my very first agency job. And I joined at such an exciting time, talking about transition. Wavemaker had just been formed. It had been formed by a merger of NEC and Maxis. And so we had brought these two groups together and different sets of clients. And one of my first orders of business was sort of sifting through and synthesizing these two separate groups of people with different cultures and different ways of working and different tools, and really helping to bring people together and build teams and build more of a consistency across the way that we worked and the way that we operated and who was doing what and how we were approaching it. And so that was a really exciting challenge. And it was a real time of transformation as much as anything else. Such a wonderful team. We moved so far during that time from this sort of very beginning stage to Wavemaker winning a Silver Agency of the Year award by the end of that time. So that was a very exciting time of transformation for sure. But you're right. Prior to that, I worked exclusively in a sales capacity over a series of different roles. And at Bell Media in particular, I was really focused on video and premium video, which was, they had such wonderful assets. And I also had the opportunity to work in advanced television, which was really just emerging. And so I was working very closely with setting up some of the linear optimization opportunities, some of the video on demand opportunities and dynamic ad insertion. So that was, again, just emerging as a new way of advertising and doing business. And we're really seeing that is that's taking off in a bigger way and forming its own stream of advertising going forward. But that wasn't the first thing I did. Before that, I worked with a startup for a little while, which was all about mobile couponing. It was an app, and that was like an introduction for me to startup culture. We want to talk about transition. That was just that was change upon change upon change all the time, and we built that really quickly. We scaled it really quickly, and ultimately we sold it to News Corp and launched it into part of that organization. And of course, before all of that, I was one of the founding execs at Olive Media, which, was one of the, we sort of pioneered the much copied Canadian network model, which was one of the things we were famous for, as well as throwing legendary parties. Those were our claims to fame. Yeah.
It's like this lovely kind of going back in time as well of all of media, of course, who won't remember them, and putting context into that CTV piece. I mean, this would have been something you were building. This would have been roughly 6 or so years ago as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's funny, as you say that, you look backward and you think, like, at the time, it felt like everything's in real time. Everything's always happening in real time. And when you look back with the benefit of hindsight, you realize how much work. It always feels like you're doing so much foundational work, and how long it takes for things to truly come to fruition. And I think that's, it's a good reminder for all of us. And I think many people who work in this industry, myself included, are endlessly impatient. But things do take time to build and develop and grow.
Yeah, the building. It's well said. The architecture that has to go into the building of where we see things headed in the time that's required. So kind of bringing this expertise from the buy side and the sell side, what has this transition been like for you?
I mean, this transition has been incredible. And I think too, I love this theme of transition, because I feel like the last 3 years have really been a time of transition for the whole world has been through a time of transition over the past 3 years. Work has changed so dramatically. And I just knew that whatever I was going to do next, it was really critically important to me that it was an environment that I was able to truly embrace personally as well as professionally. And I think the pandemic has really shone a spotlight on, the importance of wellness. And it's funny, that's on a personal level, but we see that from advertisers, we see that from agencies, who have always talked about the importance of brand safety, but for the first time are talking about the importance of not just safety, but also positivity. And for me, Pinterest was perfectly positioned to hold that space, because that is so much a focus of the platform and what we are designed and engineered to do and to support. So for me, like, the timing of this move was really important, because I feel like there's a real urgency around positivity now, that it's more important than ever. And that could be diversity, it could be body positivity, it could be sustainability. All of these issues are, increasingly taking more and more public awareness and public space for all the right reasons. So, I feel like that's like the timing is really clear. And when you have a platform that reaches millions of people, you do really have a responsibility to ensure that you're putting fundamentally good things out into the world. And for Pinterest, we really made deliberate design and product and policy decisions about organizing Pinterest around positivity, around inspiration. So Pinterest is a brand and creator safe platform. The people who come here, they enjoy topics like home and food and style and beauty, and they can find ideas that are relevant to their lives. And we've really invested in creating inclusive products, policy actions, and really engineering Pinterest so that it can remain a very positive corner of the internet. And honestly, we've deliberately chosen industry-leading positions on content safety. So last year, we banned weight loss ads, for example, which in turn has led to fewer searches year over year on diets and weight loss, which I'm incredibly proud of. That just is so exciting. And it's not just about ads either. We're focused on building products that design inclusivity into the platform. So we launched skin tone ranges, a product called Skin Tone Ranges, which was designed specifically to allow people to surface content that was most relevant to them based on the skin tone range that they identified with. And so they were able to not only get more relevant search results, but we were also able to surface content from creators from all backgrounds, which was just the perfect use of that product to make sure that we were connecting with people in the most meaningful way. And honestly, that was so successful that we then launched hair pattern research that was specifically for our Black, Brown, and Latinx pinners to be able to find hair inspiration that was most relevant to their type.
This makes me so happy to hear. And I actually have seen this also taking place on the platform. And we had, as part of our diversity, equity, and inclusion podcast series, we had a piece. One of the speakers was speaking to the first time, their age, and the first time that they were exposed to someone who looked like them. And it wasn't until, that they were in their late teenage years that they saw that reflection of themselves in the content in which they're consuming. So this is really a nice step forward.
I could not agree more. We have had a sort of a view of beauty or of normal, quote unquote normal, for so long, and it's not representative of it's not representative of Canadians. It's not representative of the world, and it's not the way. It's not a single lens. I think we have learned to see things with a much broader perspective, a much broader lens, and it's so much more beautiful.
Yeah. And what a lovely transition, right? What a lovely point to get to as well. Did you, in making this transition, so kind of going back to, your background and what you've built along the way, making this transition for the first time over into a platform, did you have any reservations? What was that kind of thought process like? You alluded to wanting to, your next company and the next step you took, kind of meeting these certain criteria. How did you get to, and what was that, transition like?
Oh, I mean, I think change is always scary. I think change, in fact, should be a little scary. Indeed. I think that's yes. What's the quote from Alice in Wonderland? You should do 6 things before breakfast that make you afraid. I think there's something in that. But I have to say, for me, I have been a pinner for a really long time. So Pinterest is a platform that I've always really embraced, and I have a really strong personal connection to. And so the opportunity to work for a place that I love myself so much was really exciting. But I will say, they say never meet your heroes. When I got to Pinterest, the ethos and this notion of, positivity by design, not only was it reflected in every single person that I met, everyone was so kind, so nice, so helpful, but it really came through the onboarding process, where the purpose of the company was reinforced time and time again. It was really very foundational to the way that we onboard employees, and we train our people to really internalize this mission and this purpose. And I think that's so important. I think about leading teams and having this sort of purpose to motivate, particularly when times get a little tough. It's really important to have a driving force that is propelling you forward. And I really feel that here at Pinterest. It's very much embodied in the way that we operate. And I think the other thing for this transition was, Pinterest is, we call it social media, right? We call Pinterest part of social media, but it's not really social media. It's not really social media. This isn't a place where you go to, argue with strangers about politics. And it's not a place where you go to, check out what your friends or celebs are are eating. That's not the purpose of it all. This is a place for really personal media. This is a place for self-reflection. It's a place for personal inspiration. This is a place you go to explore things that are meaningful to you. Not anyone else. It's a place you go, you search, and you save ideas for your own life. And more than that, it's an online platform, of course, but you go to the platform to find inspiration to do things offline. So Pinterest is one of the only platforms that most platforms are designed to draw you in and then keep you on the platform for as long as possible, right? That's the raison d'etre. But Pinterest isn't about that. It's about come to the platform, become inspired, and then leave. Go and do something, make something, create something, live something. And so it's not about viewership as much as it's about doership, So for me, I love to upcycle furniture. It's something that I really enjoy. I like taking something that has lived out its usefulness in its current form and then recreate it in a way that it can be beautiful, useful, and meaningful for a longer period. So, I've taken old doors and turned them into headboards. I've reupholstered chairs. I've repainted furniture. And every time I do one of these things, it provides me so much joy. And so, for Pinterest, being able to explore ideas and see what, even like crazy creative people are doing with furniture, that it brings me so much joy, and it brings me the inspiration, which I then take and really do apply into the real world.
It's making me think about what you were saying earlier about this place of positivity. And I remember reading that Pinterest's positioning was, it's different here. And that is kind of coming to mind for me now, because it's something that seems very embodied within you and with everyone that I've worked with at Pinterest and the platform itself. And you're kind of really touching on what's different.
I think that is absolutely right. It is really different. And part of that we've talked about already is this notion of positivity doesn't happen by accident. Like, you have to be very deliberate about it. You have to make really clear policy choices. We talked about the banning weight loss ads. We recently banned climate misinformation. These are all deliberate decisions about creating content and advertising that is, more intentional and more positive. But I would say the other big differentiator, and we talked about it a little bit more about how people use the platform, the audience mindset on Pinterest is really different as well. Because it's a place for inspiration, and because it's a place where people go to plan their future, they're sort of making decisions about what they're going to do next. And that means because pinners are there with the intent to create and to do and to make and to build, ads are actually additive, because they are looking for inspiration, and they're coming with an intent to shop, essentially. So, as we think about advertising on the platform, it's not intended to be intrusive. That's the opposite. Ads are intended to be additive. And so we work really, really closely with our advertisers to partner with brands to make ads relevant from an organic standpoint. We want to show people the right ad at the right time, for sure. And that's often really early in the process, because most people, have an idea of what they want, but they're not far enough along to think about brand. So, we have a search engine. 97% of search terms are unbranded.
Interesting.
Yeah. So people are coming just with the idea, the very beginning of their purchase journey, essentially, where they're thinking, okay, what do I want to go? What do I need? And so there's a real opportunity for brands to connect with their audiences in a very meaningful way, the very beginning of this journey. Because you don't really need ads when you read the news. You don't need ads when you're talking to your friends, but potentially you do need ads when you're trying to make a decision about what is going to help you achieve the inspiration, to realize the inspiration that you're moving toward. So that's one of the big differences. We say that 9 out of 10 of the more than 400 million people that come to Pinterest actually have commercial intent. And so for brands to be able to connect in a really meaningful, additive way is very, very valuable.
Into that creative mindset, I'm thinking like it's coming in with this mindset of open creativity, and how does a brand strategically integrate themselves into that?
That's exactly right.
Mindset.
That's exactly right. And so exploring that platform and really understanding what is special and what is different about it creates all kinds of marvelous opportunities for brands to really lean into that and connect with their audience in a way that sets them apart.
So, Kristie, you're taking me kind of in the direction that I was thinking next on, depending on when listeners are tuning into this episode in particular. Right now, if it's very current, everyone's going to have kind of holiday planning on their minds, and just curious, Pinterest's plans, and kind of taking in that notion of the creativity and the positivity and the platform itself, how it's being used by your users. What's in store for Pinterest as planners start thinking about Pinterest as a platform, and brands as well?
Yeah, it's crazy to be thinking about holiday. It's still summer. It's August.
Yeah, exactly. This is August 16th that this recording is happening. Exactly. I know. But soon it will come.
Soon, I feel like time is an accordion, and no question. And I think we talked about the pandemic and how much it changed for all of us. And there's no question that commerce and shopping habits and the way we think about moments and celebrations and get-togethers and social occasions, all of that changed so much through the pandemic. It was a real stop and an exploration for many of us about how we approach those things. And I think, specifically as I think about holiday and as I think about shopping, from a commerce perspective, Pinterest has created a place, as we were talking about transactions and how people come and use the platform. So I think Pinterest is not just a place to shop, which is very transactional. It's not just a place to buy, I should say. But it is a place to shop and browse and explore. And so, I think online shopping we think of as very transactional. I'm going to go to a store, I'm going to purchase a thing. Whereas the shopping experience for most of us really takes a process of inspiration and exploration. And Pinterest creates that and provides that. In a way, it's a place to get inspired. It's a place for discovery. And that's particularly true of the holiday season. The other thing I'll say is because we have all kinds of search data, you're right. People are already thinking about holiday, and we have access to how they're thinking about it and what is changing and how people are approaching celebrations a little bit differently. And we actually just released some new insights about how holiday shoppers are planning for celebrations and sort of seasonal moments this year. And what we're learning is that many people are shopping even earlier than ever before, partly because of our economic realities right now, and partly because they're sort of thinking about supply chain and what's going to be available and how to beat the rush, sort of trying to get off cycle a little bit. We also know that gathering sizes have gotten smaller, but they've gotten more frequent. And so, our survey told us that 75% of holiday shoppers say they're going to have more mini moments throughout the holiday season. So they'll have the bigger festivities, but they're going to punctuate them with every chance they can to sort of celebrate and connect and maybe create some new traditions through these mini or micro moments. And from a brand perspective, that's cool because that creates all these additional touch points where you can connect with consumers in a super relevant way. and those people are ready to shop, right? They're thinking about holiday, they're thinking about decor, they're thinking about food, they're thinking about gifts, and all of these different moments across the season. So for brands, being able to interact at all of those different moments becomes really exciting, I think. So I think there's lots of opportunity in that sense for brands. And then I will say we're continually engineering our product to become more usable for brands and for consumers from a commerce perspective. We've recently rolled out a whole suite of new merchant products specifically to facilitate shopping on Pinterest, and that includes an API for brands to be able to upload whole catalogs of products so that they can be updated really easily. So the inventory and the price point is always relevant. We're doing product tagging for pins, so if you see something you love, you're able to access it really quickly. And we've got a shop tab too on business profile. So if the business is e-commerce enabled, you can look at that shop tab and access that really easily. And also this summer, Pinterest announced the acquisition of the Yes, which is an AI-powered shopping platform. So we've got lots of work to do there. An acquisition never happens quickly, but we'll be integrating that platform and the great engineering and technology behind that to continue to evolve and improve the shopping capabilities on Pinterest, because I think it's a real opportunity to continue to connect people who are moving through their journey of inspiration, to connect them to the brands that are then able to help them fulfill that and realize that.
Yeah, I'm kind of coming back full circle to this transition, and the transitions that Pinterest as a platform is also kind of undergoing, and with some of the acquisitions and what's yet to come. Very, very exciting stuff. And it's also bringing me back to this fundamental point of really, truly understanding what is different in all of the platforms, and identifying, this is an understanding, what Pinterest is and how to think about it, and how to, again, kind of going back to that integration into that creativity and that piece as well. That's almost the starting place, right? Understanding that there's a lot more opportunities outside of that. I was having an experience as well whereby I was looking, it was, I think it was a lamp, and I was interested, and it showed me a variety of different other options that are like the lamp that I was looking at. So this evolution that's taking place, but fundamentally that it is different, and all platforms are different, and what makes Pinterest different as well.
Yes, I think that's right. I think it's I think we live in exciting times. Technology has a dark side for sure, but there's also so much opportunity and so much excitement that it opens up.
I couldn't agree more. We live, our industry is forever transitioning, forever evolving, forever changing. Appreciate your joining us today, Kristie. What a pleasure to have you be part of the conversation. We look forward to watching the rollout of some of these studies that you're alluding to. I know that there's more yet to come, but thank you for joining us. It was very, very insightful.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much.